Okay, good evening, everybody. This is the August 17th, 2022 Conservation Commission meeting. Right now, we have myself, Kathy Demers, the chair, Patty Phillips, Peter Anderson, and Marilyn Schreiber present. We're going to look to approve the minutes from July 20th. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion we approve the minutes as presented.
Hear a second?
Aye.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Any discussion? Okay, so moved. All right. All right, present to speak. Doesn't look like we have any visitors today. Finance report, Carol is not going to be with us tonight. She's on vacation. So I have nothing to report in terms of expenditures. Anybody have any other things that they want to bring up that they've spent money on that needs to have reimbursed? Okay. All right, old business, Talmadge Estate property. Just an update. At the August 1st meeting, the Board of Selectmen gave management authority to the Conservation Commission. They will be sending a letter to us soon on that. And as far as the DEEP grant, they're still reviewing the survey. Once the survey has been approved, we'll move on with the next items that we have to submit to them for the release of the funds. We had talked about one of the things that we need to do on the property is to clean up the scrap metal from that old vehicle and the several tires. So I think we discussed doing that later in the fall. Maybe we can, look to identify a date, maybe in October, to do that. We're still going to have to do, look into maybe starting to outline a trail. And I was going to talk to Jackie and see if she would be willing to help us with that as well. And then we have to do signage. We talked about that as well. And once we get all of that done, we can probably have a dedication of the property. I was kind of thinking that maybe we want to put that off until the early spring so we have time to do all these things and not feel pressured to get it done before, the snow flies. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think trying to do it now in the heat that we've had is not necessary. I know it's been kind of cool the last couple of days, but it could return to that crazy heat, and I don't think that's a good idea for us.
Okay.
For anybody.
Yeah, so getting the trail done and cleaning the trash up is going to wait till the fall anyway, so I need some time to do that and then organize an event for the spring. But, even though I won't be here, I throw my 2 cents in that sounds like a reasonable thing to do.
All right, so we'll work toward that. Then Fenton Ruby property, just some updates on the fishing platform. Pete and Chris put in some anchors, and Pete donated 2 benches, which were also put in place. I think all of you probably got a photo or 2 of that, and it looks great, really nice. So, Patty, you've been out at the park recently?
Oh, I've sat on those benches many times. If somebody else isn't already on them. Yeah, they're getting a lot of use.
Okay, good. Anyone carved their initials in them yet?
No, not yet.
All
We
right.
actually ran into a couple who now live in Massachusetts, but she's from Stafford, and that is their go-to place, Fenton Ruby, from Massachusetts. So it was fun.
All right.
Yeah.
So thank you, Pete and Chris, for doing that. We haven't installed the bench yet out on the Julius Trail. When Chris and I are in, more in the Willington area, we'll get out and do that. We still have an issue with the boundary encroachment that we discussed at the last meeting. A resident who lives at 222 Moose Meadow Road had cut some trees down on the park side, And we also had a concern about whether or not he was possibly going to remove a stone wall. I did send a letter to Erica and asked for some guidance as to whether the town would want to do anything, pursue anything at this point. And I still haven't received any comments back. So I'm still waiting on that. Meanwhile, Bob Shabbat did go out just to take a look at the area again, and that was this week. He said that there's still branches down in the hayfield. That was from the original cutting of the tree, and but the wall is still there. So the resident hasn't moved to do anything further. If I don't hear back from the Board of Selectmen's office, I think what I'd like to do is at least send a letter from our commission, a very brief letter that just outlines the visit that we made on the date Bob and I went out there, and basically what we discussed with the landowner and gave him notice that he was trespassing by cutting those trees on town property. So at least we have something in writing that we did visit with him and we did let him know that. And I have copies of our deed for the park and the survey map, and I can include that so that he, has noticed that, we've looked this up as well, and we're very sure those are our boundaries. So, I don't know.
Kathy,
Yeah,
would it be appropriate to speak with the town attorney just to, or at least email him and just kind of lay out to him what you just told us and see if there's anything that he would want to respond back to us?
Yeah.
I mean, we do have access to the town's attorney, correct? In a reasonable suggestion.
well, I would have to go through the selectman's office to get permission to do that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I was waiting to get some comments back from Erica. I don't know if any of you know this, but Erica's father-in-law passed away this week. So she's been dealing with some things as well. And I believe he'd been sick for a while. So she may just not have been able to get to this, but I'll check in with her. But if it's going to be an extended period of time, I will tell her that I'd like to just at least send a letter letting the landowner know that, we've been communicating about this at least in our meetings, and that we want to go on record letting him know, at least, that he's been told that he can't continue to do this at least. So
I would think something like that should come from the town, the Board of
okay.
Selectmen. It would have more impact and, get the word right from the top, not from. I think we'd probably want to, if we try to do it ourselves, that should in turn be cleared with, I think, the selectmen, because we're speaking, representing the town.
Okay.
But I would think the first thing to do is to, I don't know what you put in your letter to Erica about it, but whether you put all that kind of what you and Bob had done and the commission has voted on at this point, but.
Yeah, we hadn't really voted on anything at the last meeting.
Oh, I can't, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Bob and I just basically reported on what had happened and that we made the first selectman aware of the issue. And, I haven't heard back from her. And last week I sent her another email just asking her if they've looked into this and what they might be doing. So.
Yeah, so did in your communications, you mentioned that was after you and Bob had met with the landowner?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And described the situation, what the conversation was. And then I've also provided the Erica with copies of the survey,
Or the deed.
the deed and the survey. Yeah.
Deed and the survey, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'll do that. I'll just continue to follow up and we can just continue to monitor what's happening over there. And if there's more of it, then we'll make sure that we bring that again, to the attention of the Board of Selectmen. So, Any other thoughts on that? Comments?
Sounds like there's a slot machine paying off in the background in somebody's house.
Oh,
There it's gone.
okay. So if anybody wins big, be sure to share.
Yeah, sounds like the coins are dropping on the floor.
Next park work day. I'd like to propose that we come up with a date because I'd like to start to think about getting in touch with the stewards, the trail stewards, and letting them know. And I'd like to propose a few possible dates. You don't have to tell me right now if you think you're available, but I was looking at Saturday, October 22nd, Sunday, October 23rd, or the following weekend, the 29th and the 30th. So if you want to check your calendars, I can also send out a separate email just to for everybody on the commission and ask if people have a preference. And some of the things we might be able to tackle then, you know, it's going to be getting cooler, obviously, the days are shorter, but we might be able to do a little bit of work over at the Taylor house, the Taylor house, and kind of clean up some of the brush there. And I know that Patty had mentioned too, you'd suggested that we kind of tackle the smaller meadow on Taylor Pond Trail. So those are two areas that we could probably do in the fall. Cut down some more brush and get some of the friends of the park out there too. Okay, so I'll send an email out with that date and people can start to think about it, look at your schedules.
Great.
Okay. Knowlton Preserve, Knowlton and Talmadge Track, I don't have any updates on that. No report from the trail steward. The Eagle Scout who had given some consideration to helping us put up a signboard there still hasn't gotten back again to me. The forest management plan update that we need to have done for that area that includes the new Talmadge estate property. I sent a letter to the Board of Selectmen letting them know that we recommended that they give the contract to Conwood, and they did approve that. And I'm expecting that Board of Selectmen's office will be sending out a letter to Conwood confirming that they have the contract as well as the deposit. And that was with the ARPA funding, as you all remember. Under town development, last night, planning and zoning continued the public hearing regarding the River Road Warehouse. Oh, Jackie's coming in, so let me let her in. And there were a lot of people on at the meeting as well as on the Zoom call. I was away from Wellington, so I did participate on the Zoom via Zoom and represented the commission at that time and highlighted some of the concerns and recommendations that we had in our letter.
I was really impressed by the professional assessments that people in our town came forward with, and the seriousness and the reliability of the information that people were providing, and just the overall atmosphere of it was very professional. And the person who started off the whole presentation certainly did start off with a great bang. And it made, and I think from there, it just kept building and building and building. And I thought it was a very well organized and presented display by everyone who spoke. I was really in awe. And I saw that on the Citizens United page. I want to say, I should have written it down. The number of people who were on the Zoom meeting was in the hundreds, as I recall.
I think it was like 137 and 40 people in attendance.
That's a lot of people.
It is.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
I was really proud of Wellington.
And the public hearing is being continued until September 6th. So, we'll have to see after that, they're going to close the public hearing, and then they have up to, I believe, 65 days to make a final decision. So that's something we can keep our eyes on. Hi, Jackie, by the way. Hello.
Hi, Jackie.
We're going to be, just for the record, Jackie Kulig has joined the meeting. We need to, I'm just looking at this. Oh, let me just, under town development. Inland wetlands, they discussed at their last meeting that they agree to split the cost of our annual $120 Kakiwik membership fee. So they'll be splitting that with us. And I don't have any other updates from town development. I don't know if anybody else has. Okay. Collaborative organizational news and communication. Kakiwik newsletter. I sent that out to all the members. As part of our membership fee, they send us a digital copy of the newsletter. So I hope you found that interesting. They had some good information in there about vernal pools. Kakiwik will be having another conference this fall. They have not yet set the date, but I believe they're looking into making it a hybrid meeting. So if anybody is interested in attending, once we know when that is, either if you want to attend via Zoom or you want to attend in person, the commission can reimburse you for the cost of the attendance fee if you're interested. And the conferences are usually very interesting. Pete, I know you have gone. Marilyn, you've gone too in the past, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Jackie?
they are very good.
Yeah. So, I think for new members, it might be of interest. Patty, if you're interested, we'll make sure you get that information about the conference in case you're interested.
Yeah. Thank you.
So we have to spend some money to maintain our membership in Kakiwik. And I'd like to make a motion that the Conservation Commission spend $60 to continue our annual membership in the Connecticut Association of Conservation and Inland Wetland Commissions, which is 1/2 of the annual membership fee that we will be splitting with IWWC.
For what year is that? Is it calendar, they go by calendar year, or they just collect membership somewhere along the line and you're a member until you sign up again? Or-
I believe that it starts in July, so I believe it's July to July, the next July.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fiscal year then,
Yeah, for fiscal year.
yeah. I would second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? So moved. Okay, and then the second item on our agenda, we need to spend some money to continue our annual membership in the Connecticut Land Conservation Council. That's CLCC. And they provide guidance to land trusts and conservation commissions on open space and other kinds of conservation issues. They do a lot of work with DEEP on the open space grants. They've been very helpful to us when we've had questions and/or we need some type of support with going forward with grant funding. So I'd like to move that we continue our membership in CLCC and that we spend $100 to continue that annual membership this year. I can make that a
I'll
more
second that.
defined motion. Okay. So I move that the CC spend $100 to continue annual membership in the Connecticut Land Conservation Council.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? No, excuse me, any discussion?
Yeah, I think that's money worth spent, even though we may not directly in any given year, knock on their door and say, can you help us with this? The general overall good to what they contribute to the state, I think, is beneficial. The environment doesn't stop at boundaries, and if they're instrumental in promoting and helping out with the grant monies and that sort of thing, that's definitely, we should support them.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved. Okay, thanks, guys. Number E, Regional Pollinator Pathway Initiatives. The only update I have on that is Baton Ruby Park is now on the Pollinator Pathway website map. I did put the information there, so if you went to that website, Fenton Ruby would be identified as being on the Pollinator Pathway. And as you know, the Girl Scouts did put up their signage, and they have a Pollinator Pathway sign. Patty, how's the garden looking out there?
Some not getting touched at all, eaten, and some are just decimated.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
They're getting water there, or is the crew getting out there and watering that stuff at all?
I don't know. I'm not
Well,
sure.
Does it appear that things that are still growing are green, or are they dry?
No, I guess they are, because it's just eaten. They're just clearly eaten. So the ones that are thriving, the deer must not like it as much. So yeah, I think they are doing the watering, because they don't look wilted.
Okay. That's that here. Yeah, maybe we can brainstorm with the Girl Scouts a little bit more, especially next year. Some of it might be rabbits as well as the deer. It's so hard to know. It's a rough place to put a flower garden. Challenging place. And then we'll know too what they like and what they don't like. So maybe we can put more of what they don't like out there. Let's see. Just looking here, open space opportunities. Last meeting, we discussed that an owner of 74 Burma Road, which is on the backside of Fenton Ruby Park, she had contacted me stating that she was interested in trying to sell her property to the town for open space purposes and add on to the park. She was also concerned that Burma Road is not in any condition that she could really show the property. And so I had sent a letter to Selectman Wojcinski, and I haven't received any feedback yet about that, about the status of Burma Road. I will keep knocking on her door, because we really can't move forward until we understand what that status is, and whether or not, if we want to start thinking about whether it makes sense to try to add that on to the park or not. I know some of you have been out there and have seen that property. If you have some thoughts on it now, we can discuss it. Or
well, the biggest thing and big question of responsibility for that dam, whether that would really be an issue or not. I don't know who would determine that. Town engineer at some point, I suppose, would probably have to look at that as a start, and then he would have to see whether the state would have any kind of jurisdiction or restrictions or regulations on any owner, if we were to take ownership or responsibility for it. Of course, I don't know what the status is now for the current owner, or maybe they don't even know that's there, which is entirely possible too, or the state registry of dams or whatever that is. It's possible, I guess. It's under the radar still.
Do we technically have any dams on Benton Ruby on the pond, or it's not really there's no real dam there?
Just the beaver structures.
The beavers, I don't think you can include that. I don't think the
Yeah.
state has control over the beaver dams,
Yeah, yeah.
nor do I think they want to.
Got someone knocking at the door here.
Yeah, so we have somebody that just joined our meeting from the public. Hello, Justin. You're in the Conservation Commission meeting. I just wanted to say hello. And then under other, Pete's name was added to the daily award list on the website. So now you're official, Pete.
All right.
You're on the list. Under new business, I don't have any new communications, but I want to add an item under other. I make a motion that we add an item about Cattle Rock properties onto the agenda tonight. Can I hear a second?
I second.
So the purpose for discussion tonight is that the Board of Selectmen of Wellington and the Board of Selectmen in Ashford on Monday had a joint meeting, and as you probably know, the Cattle Rock property, which was the property where the wagon shed was on Route 44, it contains about 350 acres and about 30, I think 38 or 40 acres is on the Wellington side.
Oh, wow, we have that much? Yeah.
Yeah. And the other side belongs to Ashford. And a few years ago, both towns worked together to get I think it was a DECD grant to do some remediation. There was some contamination of the property. Somebody who had owned the property in the past had been stripping wire to get the copper. They had been burning plastic off of wire. And there were some other things that were found on the site. So there was some environmental studies done, some remediation, but there's still one part of the site that still needs further remediation. And both towns are going to apply for another grant of $300,000 to clean up that final spot. And in order to apply for that grant, they need to show that there's been discussion by both towns as to what the potential use of that property will be going forward. So they are going to hold a joint meeting, a public hearing, as a matter of fact, on September 6th. And it is very likely to be a hybrid meeting. And they're going to be asking the townspeople from Wellington and Ashford what they believe, what are some of their thoughts about how to use that property. So I wanted to see if some of you, or from a commission standpoint, if we had something we wanted to offer. As some of you know, there is a small portion of the Nipmuc Trail that goes from Wellington, goes through Knowlton property, crosses Marsh Road, and then it goes over into some private property before it hits the Wellington's portion of Cattle Rock and goes through a corner of that and exits out further on into Ashford and then to Union. So there is the Blue Blaze Nipmuc Trail that goes through there on Wellington's portion. And I know that Connecticut Forest and Parks Association has contacted us every so often to ask if the town of Wellington might want to put a conservation easement on that trail. And when I had spoken to Erica about it, she wanted to wait to see what was going to happen with the property. First of all, they wanted to be able to take ownership of it, which they have, and then kind of, work jointly to see what they were going to, what kind of use that property was going to have. So I personally don't see that there would be any reason they couldn't, no matter what they use the property for, that they couldn't continue to have the trail there. It's just in a corner of the property. It's not in any main section of the property. So I don't see that that would be a problem regardless of what they come up with for use.
Kathy, do you know which town will have the largest amount of the pond? Just out of curiosity.
That's on the Ashford side, the pond.
Good. That's I mean, think of the liability.
Yeah, yeah.
That's fine. I mean, they'll have to deal whatever their town feels they have to deal with to keep everybody safe, but I was just curious.
Yeah.
Was Connecticut Forest and Park looking to put more of the trail on that property at one point, or was it just to consolidate or put an easement on what they did have?
They may want, if now that the towns own the parcels, they may want to change the pathway of the trail, maybe to extend it for a longer time on the town's portion of the Ashford side, just to protect more of it. That's a possibility. I was going to get in touch with Claire Kane, who is their trails director, and let her know what's going on with this public hearing. So, she can possibly speak to that. But that's a possibility. Yeah.
How about a warehouse?
Yeah, and I think it should come down, and trucks should come down Mason Road, right?
Put up a toll booth.
Yeah. Do you have some ideas from the commission standpoint as to at least what you'd like to see happen to the Wellington part of this parcel? Like I said, it's only about 40 acres. It's kind of an odd, kind of a long oblong shape. Part of it is on Route 44, and then it kind of heads back and up.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I don't remember how much.
Go ahead, Pete.
Go ahead, Marilyn. No, go ahead.
Is there any elevation gain? Well, the only reason I'm thinking, that parcel of property that we looked at that was on 44, and the woman recently sold it, and it had a really nice elevation and overlooked Miller Farms Road. Is the elevation of this property have any view sheds?
Well, I've walked that trail in the past, and I don't recall anything that I would call a high view shed. There are some parts where you can kind of look out over more flat areas of the property, from where you're walking, because it's early successional growth. It's not like a mature forest. But I don't recall any high hilltop areas. And I'm sorry, I didn't really have time to kind of look at the mapping. I don't know, Jackie, if that's something you could work on for, in the next week or two, if you have any thoughts about showing us the elevations or the topography, or if there's anything else on the property that you can find on the resource maps.
Yeah, I can try to look at that.
Okay. Do you know which parcel we're speaking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering, not that anyone has the answer right here, what's the tree coverage on it currently? I mean, you mentioned some small, starting growth and stuff, but any mature trees on there? I don't know the property.
Yeah. I mean, there's part of it is more mature, mostly hardwood forest. There's not a lot of conifers in there. And my recollection is, as you get closer to the Ashford side of things, that's where things kind of get to be more early successional. And I don't know if it's because that's part of where they did the cleanup. Because the EPA, I don't know if people remember, there was a big gate there on 44 for a long time.
Yeah.
But
that was probably closer to the Wellington sides, right? Where the big gate was. Yeah.
Yeah. I think most of the contamination that the EPA was concerned about originally was on the Wellington side. And that's where they first started to do the remediation. So, I mean, is it something you think would be good to add on specifically as open space, keep as open space in town on the, I suppose it would also depend on what Ashford decides to do on their side with their
Mhm.
larger portion. I mean, they have almost 300 acres, so.
I would think one would have to go in there and look at what condition the trees are in, because I know when Dave and I go out walking, the number of ash trees that are just waiting to get hit by a storm is just phenomenal. The number of dead ash trees that are around. Not that that would matter to us, but it would certainly we will take possession of it. It's just a matter of whether some of that acreage is safe enough to have trails in if it's a predominant ash forest.
Yeah.
Or even, luckily the gypsy moths haven't come this year for the maples. But I think we'd have to make sure that it's safe.
Well, Connecticut
walking.
Forest and Park right now is maintaining their own trail. You know, they have their own stewards for the Nipmuc Trail that goes through there. I don't think that we necessarily would need to add any new trails in there, Marilyn.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't be responsible technically for stewarding that trail because it is part of the Blue Blaze Nipmuc.
Yeah. Well, that's helpful information to add to the decision making.
I don't know a lot about the rest of the property. I've never walked on the rest of the property. And unfortunately, I don't know that I'll have, well, I might be back before then, before the 6th anyway. If people might want to get together the last week in August, or if you want to go out as a group, you know, some of you want to go out and take a look at the Wellington part of the property off the trail a little bit, if you want to do some bushwhacking, and maybe kind of report back as to what you see out there, what you think of in terms of town use from a conservation or recreational viewpoint. And then, you know, as a regular resident, you might have a whole nother idea. So.
Right.
Well, if the town's already got it, it won't be any real cost to just dedicate it and preserve it as open space.
Just
Open
as it
space
is.
Is always good, yeah, leave it as it is. I mean, irrespective of what Ashford might do, if it's, 30 to 40 acres, that's 30 to 40 acres that won't be developed.
And any other thoughts, or has anybody been through that part of the Nipmuc Trail before?
Never.
It's I mean, if you have a chance and you can park on Marsh Road, and you know, just across from where it pokes out of the Knowlton, just continue across Mason Road and, Marsh Road, and you can go up the trail. It's not that far to the Ashford border. So I don't know how well it's maintained, to be honest with you, like all the time. I don't know how active their stewards are, but a place to explore.
Okay, good to know. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when I'm back in town, I can, you know, I can send out an email if I have the time and see if somebody wants to take a walk out there, and we can just poke around and get a better idea of what the topography and things are. And Jackie, if you do have the time and you can come up kind of with a natural resource map for that property and send it out, that would be helpful.
Yep.
Okay. Well, are you able to get the trail system on it too, Jackie? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will try to, but I'm not sure if I can get that info or not.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was actually on some of the maps, you know, on the state maps.
Yeah, usually the Blue Blaze trails are, so I can try to get that on there.
All right. I don't have anything else under other new business. Does anybody else have some items they wanted to bring up or discuss? All right. Well, I think we can maybe adjourn. What do you think? Your motion?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, move to adjourn. Now I hear a second.
Sure, second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording.